Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. On today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to draft and sew this beautiful dress. So if you will enjoy watching sewing tutorial like this, watch the video to the end, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, make comment and share with friends. And if you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section. So let's dive in. Now the first measurement we start with, you can see on my pattern paper I've marked the starting point. So it is the shoulder. The shoulder width is 10 inches, 10 divided by 2 which is 5. I'll be using a neck width of 2.02. So that's the neck width. I'll be using the neck depth of 2.5 inches. So then the weight is 2.2 while the depth is 2.5 inches. So I'll use my curve ruler to curve it out. Mm. This is me using the curve ruler to curve it out. Now after I'm done with that, the next thing is to slope the shoulder. Now I'll be sloping with half inches. So my shoulder slope. So I'll connect it from the neck tip to the shoulder, to where the shoulder is stopping. Now from there I'll measure the armhole depth. The armhole depth I'm using for this is 5 inches. So I'll draw the horizontal line and the vertical line. Now the horizontal line now is now the chest line. So I will extend down the vertical line from there to the. Now from here now I'll interpret the chest. The chest is 5.5 inches, so I'll mark it on the chest line. Now I'll go back to my armhole and look for the midpoint of the armhole, which is 2.5. Then from that 2.5 I go in with 0.25, which is quarter inches. So I'll use my curve to curve out the shape of the armhole. Now I'm done with that, then I'll measure from shoulder to the half length. The half length is 10 inches. So I'll use my ruler to draw out the horizontal line. Now I will interpret the waist on the half length. Now the waist is 5 5.5 inches, so I'll connect the chest and the waist together. So I'm done with the front. Now moving to the back, I'll start the shoulder with the shoulder width. The shoulder width, the same thing I mark for the front, 5 inches. Now for the width of the neck is 2.25, that's 2 widths quarter inches. Now the depth I'll be using for the front back is going to be 1 inches. So that's the depth I'll use for the back. And I'll use my curve ruler to curve out the neck. Now from there, from the neck tip, I'll slope down the shoulder by same half inches that I used for the front pattern. Now I'll connect the neck tip to that to the neck tip. Now from there now I'll measure my armhole depth, which is 5 inches, and I'll extend the horizontal line out, and I'll draw the vertical line to meet the horizontal line. Now this is also my chest line for the back. Now I'll interpret the chest for the back. I'll interpret it, then I'll use my armhole to curve out the shape of the armhole. Now from there now I'll measure the half length of the block. The half length of this is 10 inches as well, so I'll mark it and use my ruler to connect it. Now on the horizontal line I'll interpret the waist
which is 5.5 inches. Then I will use my ruler to connect the chest line and the waistline together. So I'm done with both the front and the back pattern. So this is my front pattern. Now the next thing is I'm going to the down part of this is not always straight, so I will be curving it with half inches on both pattern, both the front and the back. So you can see it is a bit slanty, it's not that straight, so I'll use my ruler to shape it out properly. So the same thing I did to the front, I'll be repeating it at the back. If you're seeing my video for the first time, don't forget to subscribe, like me, comment and share with friends. And to my returning subscribers, thanks for always watching my videos. And if you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section. So this is me cutting out my pattern. Now after I'm done cutting, the next thing is to transfer all my patterns to the fabric. Now I'll be showing you the material I'll be using for this project, the cutting and the sewing process. So if you like to see the outcome of this gown, watch the video to the end. Now I'm done with the cutting. Now I noticed the front is a little bit sharp, so I'll be trimming that particular point out. So if you notice you're having the same challenge, so you can trim it out. You can see the way I'm trimming it out. So it's not meant to be that sharp at that edge. So these are my two front and back pattern. So the next thing now is for me to bring out my material and transfer my patterns to my material. So you can see the way I'm trimming it, making sure that that edge, that particular point is not too sharp. Now for the front pattern, the front is having a mesh at the upper part, so I'll measure from my shoulder to the desired point where the mesh is going to stop. So it's going to stop at 4.5 inches. So I took note of that particular point, and you can see I use a dot on my pattern, so I'll be cutting out that point. Now I've cut out the pattern, and I labeled the upper part, that's the part having a mesh. I labeled it the front upper part. Now these are the material I'll be using. I'm using a shiny liquid mikado. So I have 1.5 yard of liquid mikado. That's what I'll be using for the project. Now my lining is 1 yard. I have 1 yard of lining. My zipper and my sewing thread is the same matching color of thread. Now for the mesh net, I have hard net too. The hard net is 1 yard. Now the mesh nets I'll be using is 3 yards. I have 3 yards of that mesh net. Now these are my pattern pieces. Now I'm done drafting the upper part. Now to cut out the down part. Now the down part is a straight cut. So you remember I told you the material I have, the whole of my fabric is 1.5 yard. So I'll be using the whole width of 1.5 yard. Now if you times 30, if you plus 36 plus 18 inches, is going to be 54 inches. So that's the width of what I'm using for the down part. Now for the length is going to be 22, because the length of the dress is 30. I've minus 10 inches for the half cut, so I cut out 22 inches for the length while the width is 54. Now I've transferred all my pattern to the fabric. You can see the upper part of the front is a mesh, so I cut out 2 pieces of the mesh. Now I added seam allowance of half inches. Now the lower part of the down part, I added seam allowance all through. Same thing for the back. The back is a full back, so I cut out my lining and the mikado fabric. So this is my zipper allowance. I added 1 inches for my zipper allowance, and on the side I added 1 inches as well as the seam allowance. So I've cut out all my fabric and I've added my seam allowance. Now the next thing is the lining for the lower part. Now the lining for the lower part, I told you is 1 yard I'm using, so I use the whole width of the 1 yard. Same thing for the hard net, but the hard net I cut out 10 inches, while the lining I minus 5 inches from the material. Now for the two, I have 3 layers of two. The width I used was 3 yards. That's the width. Now this is my hard net, 10 inches. Now all my fabric are ready. Now I'm moving to the sewing machine. I'll be starting with my mesh. So I told you I cut out 2 layers, so I'll be joining the two together with half inches. Now when you're sewing this, you don't stretch the material, and make sure the neckline, you align the neckline, and sew gently. So you can see the way I'm sewing it gently, sewing my seam allowance. Now I'll trim it out and make sure I have less than a quarter left at the neckline, because I'll be pressing it. I want the neck to look very clean. So you trim out the excess material and you leave a very small fabric on that part. So you want it to look very clean, so you trim it out neatly. So I'm done trimming it out. So the next thing I'll be doing is to turn it inside and iron it with my pressing iron. Like this, you can see the way it's looking. Then I'll go to my pressing iron and press everything out neatly. You can see I'm done pressing. Look at the way it's looking very neat. Now I'm going to be attaching the lower part to it. So you can see the lower part of it, I'll remove it, then I'll place it down the fabric, then I'll put my mesh on it, then I'll bring my lining. So the mesh is going to be in between the lining and the fabric. So you can see the way I sewed everything together. So I've sewn everything together. The next thing is I'll be top stitching on the lining. I'll top stitch on the lining. Please take note, you don't top stitch on the fabric, it's only on the lining, so you want to check it out properly before top stitching. So I'm done top stitching. Then the next thing is I will press both fabric together, and you can see the way it's looking already. I've pressed it and you can see the front and the back. Yes, you can see the way it's looking, and you can see the neckline. Everything is looking very clean. So I'm going to put that one aside and start with the back. Now the back, I'll be turning the fabric with the lining, but getting to my zipper allowance, I'll stop there. I'll sew to my zipper allowance. So this is me clipping the neck, then I'll turn it to the other side and top stitch it as well, away from my zipper allowance. I also to my zipper allowance. Now you can see the way it's looking, and you can see the opening of my zipper allowance is open. Now I'm done with the two back. This is how the two backs are looking. Now look at the zipper allowance. You can see the side for the zipper allowance is open. I didn't close that part because I will be inserting my zip and I'll be using the lining to turn it out. Yes, I'll insert my zip, then now it's going to be concealed inside. So I'm done with the. Now for the bowl of the front, the length is 15 inches while the width on fold is 6 inches. Yes, so if you open it, the width is going to be 12 inches while the length is 15 inches. So I'll sew half inches all the way from up down. I'm done sewing, then I'll open it and press it. So you see the way I'm going to open it. This is how I will be opening it, and I'm going to press it down. I'm done pressing. You can see the seam is in between and I've turned it inside. Now I'll fold the material into two and look for the midpoint of the fabric. So now the midpoint of I'm going to thread my needle and thread and make a gather stitch to form a bow. You can see I've done that, and I'm placing it on my front pieces. You can see the way I'm placing it at the center point. Now I cut another strap of fabric, turn it inside out to hold the bow. Now I'm done attaching the bow on the pattern. The next thing is to join the shoulder, the front and back shoulder together. So this is me joining the front and the back shoulder together. Please, you need to be careful when you are joining this. You know it's a mesh. So I'm done joining both the front and the back, and this is what I have. Now the next thing is to join it at the side. So I'll be doing material separate, lining separate. You can see the way I held my fabric. So also sewn the fabric. Now the next thing is to sew the lining too, and this is what is giving. Now if I turn it to the other side, I'll hold my lining. So I'm doing it separate. My lining is separate, my fabric is separate. So I'm done. You can see the inside. Yes, everything is concealed inside. This is my lining. So I'm done with the upper part. Now for the lower part, I'll bring out the fabric cut for the lower part, and I will run a gather stitch at the edge, then I'll pull it to form my gathers. So this is me pulling it to form my gathers. Now I'm done forming the gathers. Now the next thing is to form the gathers on the mesh net that is going inside. I have 3 layers, so I've formed the gathers on the 3 layers. So I've pulled it, and you can see the way it's looking. So I'm going to arrange it equally, and I'm going to join them together. I'll be joining the 3 layers together. So this is me joining the 3 layers of mesh together. Now I'm joining it together. You can see it's already forming one piece. You can see. So I'll join my fabric to the upper part. Then once I'm done, I'll bring the mesh net and I'm going to join it also to the. So this is me. I'm done joining the mesh. You can see the way it's looking already. So the mesh is going to give it that ball effect. I wish I added more mesh, so it's going to be more bulky than this, but this is what this is giving. Now the next thing is to add net on my lining. Now before adding it on my lining, I came down 2 inches away from the waist, then 1 inches from the side of where I'm going to join my zip part. So I pleated it, and this is what I'm having on my lining. Now the next thing is I'm going to run a gather stitch at the waist of the lining and pull it to form a gather. Yes, because it's more than the waist of the dress, so I'll be pulling it. Now this is what I have. Now I'll join the lining and the lining of the upper part of the dress together. So I'm done joining it together. This is what it look like. Now the next thing is I'll be fixing my zip, and before fixing my zip I would like to cut out the puff sleeve for the dress. So I'll move to my pattern paper and draft the sleeve. Now I started with a straight line and a vertical line. Now from there I'll mark the length of the sleeve. The length I want is 4.5 inches, so I'll mark 4.5 inches. Now I'll draw out my horizontal line for the where the length is stopping. Then I'll measure 2 inches. So the 2 inches is going to be the cap height. Then I'll draw out horizontal line on that part too. Now the bicep I'll be using for the upper this is 5 inches, while on the down part I'll be using 4.5. so I mark 5 inches on the cap height, and I look for the midpoint of 5 inches, which is 2.5, and I draw a straight line up from up. Yes, now from up I'll mark 1 inches down. Then I'll use my French curve to curve it out from where my sleeve started from and to my 5 inches that I use as the biceps. I hope you understand. You can pause the video and follow exactly what I did. Now I use my ruler to draw from that bicep to the length of the sleeve. Then I came in with half inches for the shaping of the sleeve. So I'm done with the sleeve. Is as simple as that. Then the next thing is to cut out the sleeve. Now if you enjoy watching this video, why not subscribe to the channel, like, share with friends, and leave a nice comment. Now I'm done with this. Now the next thing is I actually cut this on fold, so I need to cut it off. Sorry, I cut it single, so I need to cut it on fold. So this is why I transferred the pattern to another pattern paper so that it can be on fold. Reason why is because I'll be opening it, I'll be adding fullness to it. So this is the unfold one, so I'll open it and I'm going to, these are the material I'll be using for the lining. Now for the lining, before cutting out my pattern, I'll place my pattern and cut out exactly exactly the shape of the sleeve. Yes, I'll just add half inches for my seam allowance. So you can see I cut out exactly the shape of the sleeve, meaning the lining is going to carry the exact shape of the sleeve, while the material I'll be using to form the puff sleeve is going to have excess. That's I'll be adding fullness to it. So this is my lining. I cut out exact pattern with half inches allowance. Now I'm done with that. Then I'll bring out my ruler and mark the midpoint of the sleeve. Then from there I actually marked, I was using my ruler as my guideline. I used the wideness of my ruler to draw that straight part. You can see, if you watch very well, it was the wideness of my ruler I placed. So you can decide to do 1 inches, but I decided to use the wideness of my ruler for this. Now I'm done with that. Then I will label it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So my numbers got to 8. Now I'll be slashing through the patterns. Now before that, I'm supposed to transfer this onto another pattern paper, but I don't want to do that, so I want to transfer it directly on my fabric. So you can see the way I'm cutting the patterns out. I'm supposed to transfer it on another pattern paper, but I want to do it directly on my fabric. So please, you need to label your pattern so that you can get the shape of your sleeve. So it will actually help you to maintain the shape. So I added 1.5 inches for each fullness in between each numbers. It was 1.5 I added to it. So you can see I added 1.5 in between the numbers. So I will arrange it and once I'm done arranging it, I actually use my tailor's chalk to shape it. I use my pin to pin them down, then I use my chalk to shape. The shape is already given. You can see the fullness is much. So this is how I want my sleeve to come out. So I'm following it exactly the way it is. Now after I'm done with that, I want to add another fullness to the down parts of the puff sleeve. So I'm looking for the midpoint of my sleeve now. So that was why I placed my tape and look for the midpoint. Now from that midpoint, I'll be adding 2 inches down from the hem. The same thing yes, 2 inches. I'm going to add it, and I'm going to go with the shape of my sleeve. So it's going to be 2 inches, and you can see the way I curve it. Now the same thing I'll be doing to the upper part of my pattern. I added 2 inches to it. Now this is to give the sleeve more puff effect. So you can, if you feel like you want to skip, but it had more volume to the sleeve. So after I'm done with that, I started cutting out my pattern. So you can see the way I'm cutting out my pattern. So I'm done cutting. So the next thing is to remove my pattern papers, the pieces. I'm going to removing them out. Then I'll bring my lining, and I'll start joining my sleeve. Now before joining the sleeve, you need to identify the down parts of the sleeve. Now the down parts have gathers, the upper part to have gathers. So I'll look for the down parts of my sleeve, then I'll make gathers on it. So I've notched the upper part of the sleeve. So this is the down part. I've made gathers on it. Then I will use my lining. You know, my lining is the exact shape of my sleeve, so I will use my lining to turn it inside. Yes, you can see the way I placed it, the good side facing the lining. Then I stitch both lining and the fabric together. You can see the way it's looking. Now on that side, I'll turn it out and I'll be sewing them. I'll sew the lining separate and I'll sew the fabric separate at the side of the sleeve. And on the crown of the sleeve too is having gathers, so I've formed the gathers on the fabric. Please note, I didn't form any gathers on the lining because the lining is the one carrying the exact shape of the sleeve. So you can see the way I turned it inside. Yes, and you can see the shape is giving. So the puff sleeve is already forming. Now I'll match them at the side seam. I'll make sure they are equal. So I'm just going to use a stitch to hold both the lining and the fabric together. So I'm going to go to my machine and stitch both the lining and the fabric together. So you can see the effect is already formed, the puff sleeve is formed. So I'll just hold it together. So this is my sleeve. Now the next thing is to bring the fabric, the cloth, and fix the sleeve. So I've fixed my zipper on the back side of the sleeve and I've turned it with the lining. Now look at how it's looking at the back of the dress. Now I've also joined it, the lower part of the dress, I've joined them together. I've joined everything together, the inside too. For the mesh, I've joined everything together, both the lining. Now this is me joining the sleeve to the body of the dress. Now I'm done joining the sleeve to the body of the dress, and this is how it's looking. So this is the final look of it after fixing the sleeve and after hemming the down parts, because I actually hemmed the down part of it. So this is how it's looking. Now the next thing is to bead. I've done beading, and I also attach a detachable bowl at the back of the dress. Yes, this is the final look of the front and the back view of the dress. I'll be dropping a tutorial on how to fix this detachable bowl. If you're enjoying this tutorial, why not subscribe to the channel, like, make comments, and share with friends, and turn on your notification bell so that you can see more of my videos. See you in my next video.